Please welcome the panel on S.O.S. Save Our Seas, Protecting the Future of Our Oceans. Moderated by Straits Times Assistant News Editor, Audrey Tan.
So this panel on saving our oceans comes at a really timely moment, given that next year in June, France will be hosting the 3rd UN Oceans Conference, where we're expecting lots of discussion on how we can mobilize more resources for ocean conservation. So please join me in welcoming our panel today, and we'll just get right into the meat of today's discussion. We all know that the oceans are in peril, right? They're facing marine heat waves, overfishing, pollution. Tell us, in one sentence, and maximum 2, how your organization is working to deal with this crisis. Mark, over to you.
Yeah, so we run an organization called OceanX, and we are exploring the world's oceans and bring that to a global community through the scientific research and pairing that with global media projects as well as education work.
Oh, great. Very succinct. Richard?
So Conservation International works in 30-plus countries all over the world, and our entire organization, one of our goals is to double ocean protection from 9 million square kilometers to 8 million square kilometers. But that also means we have to improve the management of those areas and link it to local livelihoods so that we can promote, these virtuous cycles where economic development is driving ocean protection, in those protected areas.
Thank you, Richard. Anna?
And the Great Barrier Reef Foundation is about advancing and accelerating coastal and marine restoration adaptations so that these ecosystems are able to live and survive with the pressures that are coming down on them.
And McLaren Racing, as a Formula One team, we're at the forefront of innovation and technology, and we wanted to find a meaningful way to be able to apply that in the sustainability space, and that's why we have partnered with the Great Barrier Reef Foundation to help them with their amazing work on reef restoration.
Thank you, Kim. So I'm going to ask the elephant in the room. What is the relationship between Formula One and marine conservation?
Cars and coral, I know, it's a really weird combination, but actually when you go under the skin of it, and I'm sure Anna will echo this, it makes an awful lot of sense. It's an engineering partnership, first and foremost, so we have put together a group of our F1 engineers alongside the marine scientists and engineers who've been working for a long time on reef restoration to look at how can we help them accelerate and scale up their operations to be able to restore the Great Barrier Reef. And then that would be the test case to them being able to take it on to other parts of the world in terms of coral reefs. Why would McLaren be interested in that in the first place? It's a really important part of our ecosystem. We travel around the world. We're not only a Formula One team, we're also racing in 6 different series, and we wanted to make sure that we're giving back. And in doing that, we wanted to make it really practical and solutions-oriented, and that's really motivating for our team, as well as hopefully our fans as well.
But why corals?
So it was partly because corals we're losing them, and we know they're such a fundamentally important part of our ecosystem and planetary resilience, and they give back so much more than the space they take. So that was the one thing that made sense. But honestly, the other part of it was this collaboration came about by one of our team members who was watching a documentary one evening, and he was actually looking at it from the perspective of, hey, they're using cable ties on this documentary to restore coral in the sea. Are they putting in plastic? And so he emailed the team and at the Great Barrier Reef Foundation and asked them about it, and that just spiraled into a conversation, and it just made sense that we could really help them in a practical, solutions-oriented way, and that's how it came about.
Thank you, Kim. So, Anna, what do you think this collaboration is trying to achieve?
Well, I mean, in the end, what we're trying to do with the coral reefs, adjacent to the work that CI is doing, which is about protecting the ecosystems, we have to restore and repair them. And when it comes to coral restoration, it's not a new concept. There's a lot of work being done here, even in Singapore, but it's still highly manual. So for us to really be able to win this race against time, knowing that we've got 26 years to save this ecosystem, we've got to do it faster, we've got to do it cheaper, we've got to increase the survivability of it. And there comes a limit to what is a science problem and what quickly becomes an engineering and a technology problem. What the ambition and the partnership with McLaren is that they're going to deliver, and I'm so confident we're going to do this, deliver 10x increases. So currently to plant a coral baby, it's about $10 to $15. We can bring it down to $1 through the production line that McLaren's helping us automate and refine and seamlessly deliver. And then currently the micro nurseries, the deployment machinery is spitting out about 100,000 coral babies in one spawning season. Again, we're hoping to improve that to 1 million. So these are really crunchy numbers, and then when you start getting to that factor, bringing down the price, bringing up the output, you actually are then working in a meaningful scale, and you can see a pathway through the end of this.
And I just to add to that, I think one of the things, if you think about a Formula One car at the beginning of a season to the end of the season, it's probably 80% difference because of the constant R&D and innovation that we're applying to making that car go faster. And the way we take the engineering approach that we take is very single-minded in that it is what is the one goal, and for us, that's reducing lap time on track. So we've taken that thinking, that mindset and approach and applied it to the process for this reef restoration. And that single goal of how do we get more coral on the reef faster, surviving cheaper, is then what we're then identifying, okay, what are the projects, what are the opportunities, what are the barriers, what are the things we need to do to unlock that to get there. And it's then about working together with marine biologists, and it's fantastic to see them geeking out together.
Oh God, yeah.
And we've gone to Australia, they've come to the UK to workshop, to learn from each other and collaborate and draw on whiteboards and come up with trial concepts. And that's really practical, and that's what they've been able to then look at solutions to move forward. So this is about applying real-life solutions to the problem.
It's also about, just to finish off on, it's also a great exemplar of what partnering with industry can be, that if we, in some ways, can understand that we don't have all the capability to get what we need to get, we have to open the door, we've got to be a bit more humble and build these collisions of conversations and partnerships. And we really hope that because it is novel, because the question's always, why are you two friends? It's drawing attention. And because there's really crunchy impact numbers around it and ambitions, we're really hoping that this sets forward a whole new wave of collaborations with industry, which we need. We need everybody in the tent to get what we need to get to.
It will be interesting to see if these structures can be deployed in Singapore's waters. We do have corals in our waters, so it'll be interesting to see if there's replicability elsewhere.
We'll come back in 2 years' time and we'd love to ask.
I'll link you up with the scientists.
Yeah.
But coral reef conservation and restoration is just one part of the picture. A big part of marine conservation is also about protection. But protecting resources, often people associate that with exclusion, keeping people out of marine protected areas. So Richard, Conservation International works extensively in the Asia-Pacific, where there are millions of people living along our coastlines. How do you strike this balance between protection and ensuring livelihoods?
So that's really the key question. So if anything you take away from today, that is protecting oceans, is not about excluding economic development. Oceans are really the frontier for economic development for the world. It's like they're underdeveloped. It's like if we can invest in oceans as infrastructure, that can stimulate economic growth for countries, for communities that really need this, but done in a sustainable way. So the way we think about it is that protection, a country achieving its 30 by 30 goals, that's a way to develop an economy, based on nature in a sustainable way. Just like where protected areas are really matters. It's like there's obvious places like the Great Barrier Reef. It's like, okay, the entire world needs this. It's like an amazing place like no other on Earth. But, the rest of the ocean, we sort of think of it as just being the same. But there's places that really are special that nature really needs, especially for things like fisheries. So in a place like Indonesia, one of the questions is, can we create protected areas not just for reefs, but to provide the fundamental underlying infrastructure to produce fish that then fisheries can be built upon? We're working with OceanX on really trying to find out where those areas are and, doing the cool underwater surveys that nobody has done before to really develop that kind of technology.
So tell us a bit more about Blue Halo and how that is a novel scheme that aims to balance conservation with fisheries management.
So Blue Halo is based on that idea. So we're working with the government of Indonesia on one of their fisheries management zones, WPP 572, I believe it is. It's the entire west coast of the island of Sumatra. Huge area, 1 million square kilometers. That's like, for scale, if you're an American like me, it's like, I think, over 2 times the size of the state of California. So a massive area of ocean. But it's also a place that's really been overfished and overused. It's amazing that the fishery has not collapsed. And people of Indonesia depend on this not just for livelihood, but for protein, for food. So in many ways, this is a food security issue. But the question is, how do you protect this piece of ocean? So there's a couple parts. One is Indonesia. The government has, in a very visionary, forward-thinking way, said we're going to use this as an area that we're going to reform the fisheries regulation, and we're going to protect. We're going to use this as an example of how to reach 30 by 30. We'll protect 30%. But how do you pay for that? And that's where Blue Halo comes in. It's like, can we sort of start to develop an investment scheme that's actually generating livelihoods based on that kind of protection? So the first part of it is a grant facility in partnership with the Green Climate Fund, where we're going to deploy about $60 million of capital, to sort of build from the ground up the investment part of it, the small and medium enterprises, the entrepreneurial spirit, and the local financial institutions that can deploy capital. At the same time, hopefully that will create enough of an ecosystem that larger investment can come in. So it's really this idea that we need to invest in oceans in order to drive a country's economic development and their food security, and that needs to be done at the same time. And protection is the foundation of that. You can think of ocean as a value chain. At the base of the value chain is healthy ecosystems. If we look in OceanX, we go down in the sub, and you look around, there's places that are very healthy, that are producing fish, that the habitat's still intact, that it's working. But other places, you go down there and you see just plastic and just depauperate areas. Much like in forests, there's degraded areas and there's primary forests. There's a huge difference between these places. We need to sort of protect the places that are still intact and still functioning, but also restore these places that need to be restored in order to produce fish and protein for people. So that's really the challenge of, globally around ocean protection. But that's what we're trying to do in Blue Halo.
Thanks so much, Richard. And on the topic of Indonesia, Mark, OceanX just came back from an expedition in Indonesian waters. Can you share with us some of the interesting things that you found there?
Yeah, absolutely. We were 4 months in Indonesia, and we were really focused on, one is fisheries assessments and biodiversity work, because as Richard was saying, these countries rely on their fisheries to both sustain their own, to feed their own people, but also as exports. And so the work that we can do for full genome sequencing and eDNA work provides a leg up for being able to assess their waters in a way that understands if they are on good track for improving health of their waters, or what are the underlying data that they can do to mitigate future impacts on the fisheries. And so we're doing a lot of biodiversity assessments there, but then also cool things like being able to find new hydrothermal vents, or at least traces of new hydrothermal vents that provide an ecosystem within the space. And there's a whole wide range of data that's still being processed, and over the next several years there'll be a lot of announcements along that work, and then some things that we'll be producing with various media partners as well to highlight that work as well.
Yeah, just to follow on quickly on that, the genome sequencing and eDNA work, for those of you who are not scientists, it's an amazing thing, which is, you can take a sample of water, at different depths, and the DNA technology is such that you can figure out what species are there. Just from that sample of water, on the boat, on the ship, there's all the labs that can do that sequencing there in place. When I was a graduate student, like many years ago, you had to send that stuff off, and maybe it worked, and it was just all theoretical, but it's actually working now. And we can do things like you get those samples, and then not just what's there, but you can calculate a baseline for like fisheries populations. How much is there? And that's critical information for government to say, okay, we can start to manage that fishery sustainably. That we know how much can be taken. We know how to set quotas. This has never been done in Indonesia, and now it's possible in part because of this technology that's available that OceanX and the Dalio Foundation has very generously provided.
And it's allowing us to discover things that we never knew existed in Southeast Asian waters. I think just yesterday there was news that a humpback whale was spotted off the coast of Malaysia, Terengganu. So, Mark, can you share with us what you found on the expedition through eDNA that stood out for you? Like anything interesting?
There's a wide range of discoveries that we had along the way, but I don't know if I'm really can go deep into some of those because it's still being published, but we were doing some preliminary work around coelacanths, which are these kind of Jurassic fish that is only now being understood and known, so a lot more to be kind of revealed as we go on, but kind of I think for us, in regards to some of the discoveries, is there's a lot of creatures that and marine life that we don't have full genome sequencing. So when you're doing the sampling of water, as Richard mentioned, it kind of comes up as there's something there, but we don't know the fingerprint essentially of those creatures. And so if we can provide both Indonesia and then also the other countries in Southeast Asia a database of what are those fingerprints, the full genome sequencing of both critical species but also new species, then all that those countries need are samples of water to be able to start to highlight where in their country's waters they are and what are the levels of the population for that. But even more so is also what is maybe feeding on that. So taking the whale example, what are they feeding on when they're here? What we can get the full genome sequencing of these whales to know even just the drop of water of highlighting. All right, have there been humpbacks in the area? But then take submersibles down and remotely operated vehicles down into the depths to get more samples of water that then says, oh, there's actually critical species that they're feeding on, and we need to protect that in order to protect the whales.
Looking forward to the results when they're ready. But just building on that about discovery of species yet unknown and the potential it could have for genetics and new kinds of medicines. I think some of the fluorescence used in X-rays are actually found from jellyfish. I was hoping Anna and Richard could share a bit more information on the private sector's interest in marine conservation. Is this something that's relatively new? Like, for example, McLaren, you only came on board with marine conservation last year, right?
Yeah.
So just curious, what has the scene been like?
I mean, we've been around, the Great Barrier Reef Foundation's been around for 24 years, and we were always established to be a bridge to industry. So we've always had a really powerful family of corporate partners, businesses who are investing dollars, but also their most precious resource, their brains trust. What we've seen in the last, and we were having this conversation probably about the last 6 years, which has been really interesting, is a whole new momentum about blue capital. And it is, whether it's coming from sustainable investment or just that the ocean as a blue economy is in more focus to a lot of financial institutions. I think what's interesting about that is we can absolutely see the waves ahead where we're going to need blended finance models, and for those models to be really, really elegant and frictionless, because we're with all the work that we're discussing, all of us are in a scaling fight. So whatever we want to do right now with these prototypes, we want to be able to scale it, and we don't want to have these moments of pause or waiting for a government sympathetic to say here's a grant or have to apply for these things and sit it out. We want to be able to keep going. What I would say with a lot of that increasing support is we're still finding that there are partners that want the equation. I'll put in X million and I want this kind of return for it. The blue is not there yet. You know, even in blue carbon, in coastal restoration, certainly in biodiversity around corals, we haven't got the equation right. It's still really lumpy. There's still methodologies and work to be done there. However, what we desperately need right now is catalytic investment. And that's not just philanthropic, though that's wonderful. We need investors who are going to help us get to the future that everybody wants to be in. So every conversation you're having, they're learning from the NGOs, and the NGOs are learning from business and finance. And I think we've got to solve and develop these solutions together, because if we can get it right, then you can see this amazing moment, this convergence in the future, where there'll be government, there'll be NGOs, and there'll be private sector, and there'll just be momentum to scale this great work out in the oceans.
Richard, what do you think is accounting for this blue renaissance?
Well, I think the world needs it. You know, if you look at every measure of human development, like whether it's you know, childhood health or education or longevity, it's like humans have gotten better over the last 100 years, a lot better, exponentially better, except for nature. This has all been done at the expense of nature. And especially oceans. Oceans are now absorbing most of the heat just from their physicality. Most of the heat from global warming, and it's really causing damage that's now becoming a planetary issue. So it is our thesis at Conservation International that people need nature, that we need nature to be healthy to survive. And it's not just about the amount of carbon in the atmosphere, it's all of these things. We need oceans to be healthy and vibrant, you know, and produce the ecosystem services, fish and clean air and water and you know, all these things that, you know, that the planet needs in order for us all to continue to live here. So the 30 by 30 goal is based on science. This is like the idea that we need at least 30% of the ocean, and not just random 30%, places like the Great Barrier Reef that are really critical, that are these special places to continue to be functional for the whole planet to work. So it's just a very simple thing to me. It's in some ways it's an engineering problem, right? You know, we just have to engineer our way out of it, but you know, not create some giant carbon-sucking machine, but just to actually protect the nature that we all depend on.
So the 30 by sorry.
And what I just wanted to build on is, you know, people might be wondering how did we get to a place where the CEO of McLaren Racing was willing to invest engineering resource and money and time and some of our assets into this. And I just wanted to build on what you've both said, in that it's so important to find something where we've got skin in the game. And we didn't want, you know, we looked at all the different models. We looked at, do we just go for a philanthropic approach and a donations approach? Do we buy carbon credits? But we just felt we could add so much more that was going to help scale those solutions to make a real difference. But also it means so much more to our people and our fans if we're really creating this new model of partnership. And that's where Anna, you know, talked about how we are investing in something early on. We're really putting our effort and our time and our minds to solutions and being very catalytic in that beginning phase, which lends really nicely to us being in an R&D space as an organisation. And I think maybe we're just well positioned as an organisation to be able to do that compared to perhaps some of the larger, more multinational, big engine corporates, a bit more agile, and that's a luxury for us.
Thank you. So, Mark, OceanX is an initiative of Dalio Philanthropies. So what are your thoughts on the private sector's involvement in marine conservation now? Because that was previously a domain that was very funded by philanthropy.
I think it's an absolute must, and I'm very excited that there's more organizations from the private sector that are getting involved. And I think that we obviously need to get governments buy-in and excitement, and need to really get them on board. But they won't necessarily put in the capital that it will take to be able to better understand, better protect, and better educate the public on oceans, and it's being the front line essentially on climate change. And so we certainly have been very much taking as much as we can to push forward on the at least in regards to our work around that. But I think also partnerships is key. We can't do this alone. Others can't do it alone, and it's actually counterproductive if everyone's doing it themselves. And so whether it's government partnering with the private sector or the private sectors partnering together to hopefully get the buy-in from the government to get involved. But through partnerships and the kind of more organizations doing, or more of the private sector doing innovative work to help to propel the ocean science and ocean communications and health of the future of our planet.
Thank you. So I have a question for all the panelists, which is that private sector involvement in marine conservation could be very beneficial. It could help with scaling up of resources, of pilots into the larger scale stuff. But a lot of the ecological crisis that we are facing today was because of extractive activity for profit-making motives. Is the private sector involvement in conservation friend or foe? I don't know, Richard?
Well, I think the private sector is huge. So there's friends and there's foes. I think people in this room are friends. Like McLaren, friends.
Friends.
But it's really about enlightened self-interest. It's in all of our best interests to protect these places that we all depend on. So can we create systems that really promote that? Can we create the underlying systems where investment in oceans promotes further ocean protection? Some of this might mean that investors could in the short term take less profit. They take a haircut. It's like if you think about the population growth rate of blue whales, it's like 0.05% a year, meaning like naturally the growth rate will go up slowly. So of course, during whaling times, it's more profitable just to kill all the whales and put that money in the market and you make more money. But it's better for us all if we manage these things sustainably, like fisheries that don't grow at the same rate as markets, but we can still all make money, especially the people that live in and around nature that need that kind of economic development, not just for wealth creation, but just for the basic needs of day-to-day life. So can there be some wealth transfer in place for those people that live in and around nature that are really on the front lines? And that's something that we can all pull together and do, I believe. So I think the private sector is a friend.
Anna?
I agree. I think simplistically, of course, there's going to be bad eggs and people who are perhaps going to offer to write a check to absolve themselves of poor things, that they're doing for the ocean. But we are, as an organisation, actively friend-raising because we will not get there if we don't build this remarkable team. And sometimes it's really interesting. You have to be very open to the first conversations you're having with lots of different partners. Some people have a real journey to go on. I mean, not everybody has a Kim in their team and keeps raising the bar. And I think you've got to be generous with your time and the skill sets of your people as well to take organisations on a journey, because we have got to get to a future where nature is cherished. And it's a no-brainer. And it isn't about necessarily regulations. There is just a general raising of the bar of how everybody behaves. So we need lots of different levers, but for us, we are actively friend-raising.
Thank you. Kim, did you want to chime in?
Sure. Obviously, we want to be a friend as Milken Racing, but I have worked in corporate sustainability for a couple of decades now, and I just don't think we have time to be arguing amongst ourselves about who's the right person to get involved. Everybody has a contribution to make, and I'd rather that we put our energy and our effort into being solutions-oriented, and I hope at Milken Racing we are demonstrating that if you think about it carefully, choose your partners well, look at values alignment and where you can both bring value to the table, then I think you can really, I hope this is an example of a really practical, meaningful way of corporate sector making a difference and partnering to help with these solutions.
So, Kim and Anna, I was hoping you could share with the room a bit more of your experience working with a different sector, right? I mean, conservation organizations, they speak in the language of science. There's very specific metrics that you use to measure coral reef restoration and protection. But how do you convey that to the engineers?
How do we convey it, or how you?
Well, I mean, it's been a journey. It's been a learning curve. It's partly by getting people together in the room. And you're absolutely right. We have had meetings where we've actually been talking about, okay, I think we need a glossary and a term and definitions, because when we talk about one, I'm trying to think of an example now, and I can't off the top of my head, but we use the same word and mean very different things, and so that's been something where it's getting together, getting to know each other, and collaborating. But it has been really fantastic to see those engineers with their markers and working on different solutions and projects and rolling up their sleeves, and that's how you spark wonderful new ideas.
Did they feel that there was a challenge or like a language barrier when it comes to combining engineering skills with a living, breathing structure like a coral reef?
It's been learning. It's a learning curve. But the great thing about that I've experienced with this and what we have in Formula One is a learning mindset. So we are constantly, engineers are curious. They love a problem. And so, that's been a really important part of this, in that everyone's just gone, okay, we need to learn about how to deal with biological scenarios, because that's something that we don't have to do in Formula One. And then they've been learning about that sort of single currency and how we really focus on what's going to make the biggest difference and how to prioritize and move forward quickly. So I think it's been a really lovely way of bringing skill sets together to get a better outcome.
It's been interesting too, because it has been like dating. And I think what's been lovely, because the teams have gone to each other's homes, so it's almost like bringing your girlfriend or boyfriend home to your parents. And that's been really gorgeous, because it has really it's made the partnership so deeper than we could have imagined. I totally agree, engineers love to solve, but intellectually solving this, but bringing them to the reef, and for them to have their own intimate connection with nature and understand the why, and to see the communities and their reliance on these healthy ecosystems, it gets very personal, and vice versa, for the team to go to HQ at McLaren and see that they're not mucking around here. Like, this is the most advanced, sophisticated engineering to shave milliseconds off. And so I think that it's just by both of them, everyone genuinely committing to a partnership and having a very clear shared goal. It's been a learning curve, but gosh, where we are right now, it's extremely powerful. If we turned around to these teams and said we're ending this, I think we'd have a real problem on our hands.
Yeah, people are excited and passionate about it. In Formula One, we have a summer break, and so some of the engineers who weren't allowed to work on Formula One had the opportunity to work on this project, and they were just so inspired. And it's not that they don't enjoy doing what they do in Formula One, but it also gave them the opportunity to have a blank sheet of paper and be creative and innovative for that fixed period of time, and then feel like it's making a difference. And that's important for us.
Thank you. And Mark, could you share a bit more about where the individual fits into this whole discussion on marine protection? OceanX wants to bring the wonders of the ocean into people who probably wouldn't go in the ocean in the first place. Why is that important?
Yeah, I think one is consumer behavior. If we can get the public engaged and excited and understanding about the risks, and then also the ways that they can be involved or buying power. I think people underestimate the buying power. I think to your question before around the private sector and getting involved, I think there's a lot more corporations that are trying to figure out ways to help out or ways to change how they're doing things, but that really comes down to buying power from a consumer behavior side. There's more I could go on around that, but I think also what I would love to highlight is on the education side, there's a huge talent pool risk of not being able to build out future science leaders, future science communicators, and people involved in this. And I think for us, we want to build the workforce of tomorrow by both educating undergraduate to early career students and building up that, but also getting that content out and that science and data to the K through 12 students. So we do a lot in education, because without, it's almost like a brain drain in the ocean space. Data science, for example, a lot of folks in the data science or space, they don't necessarily know that the ocean space and ocean area is really lacking the sophistication that you might see in other tech companies, and we need to ramp that up. And so providing an ability for more kind of the next generation to get involved, whether it's data science, marine engineers, marine sciences, or marine storytellers. There's a wide range of ways for the next generation to get involved, and if we don't propel them into the ocean space, then it's going to be very challenging for us to keep the momentum up of being able to protect and explore and get that to the public. And so I think for us, education is starting to become an increasingly way of taking our science data and our content, our media, and wrapping that up with a really strong education initiative.
So just to bring this panel to a close, I was hoping each of the panelists could give the room some advice for any organization that wants to start getting involved in marine conservation, whether it's an NGO or a private sector company. What would be your advice to help them navigate this? Because it's still a rather nascent sector. I know, Kim, do you want to go first?
I think choose your partners carefully and make sure you've got values alignment, and think about what you can bring to the table that's going to make a difference to their mission to make it meaningful.
Yeah, I think, you absolutely reach out and start having a dialogue. But before that, really understand your why, to know what is the driver for it, to understand where your internal culture and team is, so that you're not just doing it for the sake of it. Because we need great partners, and when you can harness and design a powerful partnership, it's win-win. What we don't want is people rushing into things, having a bad experience, and then almost writing off ocean conservation, saying, no, I had a bad experience there, I won't come back and do that again, because we need you on this quest with us. So please understand why you want to do it, and then start to reach out. And every NGO will take a conversation from someone trying to navigate their way in this space, and take a lot of meetings, and then find who feels right for you.
Thank you. Richard?
Yeah, I think just echoing what Mark was talking about around the capacity side. I think, ocean conservation in many ways is a new thing. It's like big marine protected areas 20 years ago were not a thing, and now it's really a thing that every country is trying to figure out. The blue and green economy is a thing that private sector, governments, communities are all trying to figure out. So if anything, you got to think about who your partners are, but really you have to build that capacity. This is a new space. We're really approaching at CI oceans as this real frontier for not just conservation, but for economic development, economic valuation. But we need the partnerships to do that. It's like, just like, McLaren is getting into ocean conservation, it's like CI, and NGOs are getting into financing. But we're not experts at this. I'm a scientist by background. We need, the expertise that's in this room to do that. So we need to build those kinds of new partnerships in order to go forward.
And Mark?
I would say there's three parts, and the way I would view it is, one, to echo the other panelist, is what impact do they want to have, whether it's big or small, because there's so many ways to get involved, but if you know what impact you want to have or what direction, then you will allow that to understand where might be the starting point. Second is it's such a large space, it really can touch a wide range of fields and expertise and ways that you folks can get involved. So I would say don't go overwhelmed. If you want to go big and really get involved in a big way, then go for it. But at the same time, if you don't know yet what you want in regards to the full impact that you want, don't let the overwhelming ways of folks can get involved be a deterrent. And in that mind, in that set, it's okay to start small as a learning. When we first started in 2013, we didn't really know what we were doing at the time. And then through the learnings, through the opportunities, through the partnerships and the trial and error, then you can refine the strategy, refine the goals, refine the impact that you want to do. And the third, I would say, is, to Richard's point, is capacity building, or what ways can that individual or that corporation or that group take their expertise, especially if it's not traditional ocean conservation, and bring their spin and their expertise into an area that would actually have a huge impact on the ocean space. And I think that's actually really, really key because I think most people will think, oh, my field doesn't really touch ocean conservation. It's the complete opposite. If you don't think it touches ocean conservation, it's probably because there's a huge need and a lack of knowledge in that field in regards to ocean conservation.
Thank you so much to all the panelists. Please join me in thanking them for sharing their time and expertise.